Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We'll talk more soon.
I'm going to put on the positive side, right? Focus, take whatever it is you're making right now, and I'm telling you, we will see a completely different world, all right? Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We'll talk more soon.
This really doesn't look like dinner.
Come on, somebody. Come on, so we're going to do really confident that we already know.
I can do some things to supplement what the education system is not providing.
Teammates, first and foremost, if this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Great to have you. Welcome to the #1 show on innovative teamwork. It's going to continue to be the #1 show on innovative teamwork. Hope you're getting off to an incredible start to 2024. To my regular listeners, you already know this one was coming. You already knew this one was coming, man. Ever since, I'm doing this recording on January 14th, 2024. All right. Week after, about 6 days after my Michigan Wolverine, I'm a fan of the Michigan Wolverines, and we won the national championship. But also, not only that, there's been a lot of business, quote unquote, right? A lot of business happening in the football coaching world, whether it's the NFL or the collegiate level. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and that is directly affecting this business because the whole Move Swiftly marketing brand, the whole everything, the entire framework that I've built has been based off the lessons, the lessons that I learned as a college football player, and I've been able to take those lessons on teamwork and apply it to business. And everything has been about great coaching. All right. I was blessed. I say this all the time. Whenever people ask me, how did I get into coaching? And I tell people all the time, look, I hit the coaching lottery. I had some great youth football league coaches. I had the GOAT as one of the GOATs, all right, the high school football coach, and Bob Malloy, who retired with the most wins of any high school coach in Maryland. I played at Carson Newman. I was coached under the late Ken Sparks, and my position coach, who I just actually recently found out my position coach he recently passed away, is the late Carl Torbush was my linebackers coach. And then next year I had to move back home, and I worked at a gym, and there were a ton of personal trainers that taught me the business side of football and taught me a lot of the things that I didn't know about what the business was going to be about, the clients and bringing in revenue, all that kind of stuff. And then I went on and finished out my college career at Stony Brook University, where I played under Coach Chuck Priori, who just finished his 18th, nearly 2 decades at Stony Brook, which is rare at a Division I school to last that long. So a lot has been changed, and a lot has been going on. Excuse me. A lot has been going on in the coaching world in terms of turnover. I mean, every year we see it every single year, but this year it's a completely different feel to it because the NIL, name, image, and likeness, the transfer portal stuff is starting to affect the game, affect the ability to build teams, and the pro game is kind of at a crossroads. I mean, we just watched a game that wasn't even on national TV. We have to go and download Peacock now. You can start to feel the business side of football taking over, and it's kind of you can sense it's coming down the track, right? That these old school coaches that kind of have an old school mentality, of coaches that don't have an idea that of how the business side works, they're going to eventually they're going to have to move on from them because the business side of football is starting to take over more and more and more. We're starting to recognize that every single year. We're starting to see that trend. All right. And so today I'm going to talk to you guys about how if you want to be a great coach, regardless of the sport, regardless of the actual business, all right, because everyone's a teacher, coach, so that you have the ability to do coaching, and it doesn't just have to be about football. And I actually learned that myself just a few years ago when I went to the Tony Robbins event titled Unleash the Power Within. I learned in that actually in in that conference in which that the title that Tony Robbins had was a coach, life coach. He's a coach. All right. It wasn't just about being a football person. Just being a coach isn't just about football. All right. But football does provide the best example about how to coach and how to teach and how to build teams. It does provide the best example. All right. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about how you can last in this business, how you're going to last in the profession of being, whether you want to call yourself a coach or whether you want to call yourself a teacher. Regardless, it's pretty much the same thing. If you want to last, you cannot be motivated by the winning. All right. You cannot be motivated by the winning. Understand this. This is very important. All right. I'm recording this in a time in which there have been 3 legends. All right. That's the end of an era. I'm going to get to that in a second. I'm going to get to that throughout this episode. I'm going to mention them throughout this episode. But, the legendary Bill Belichick is no longer coaching the New England Patriots. I mean, to me, that's crazy, man. That was, I was one of the players. I was when I was playing when he was in his reign, and he dominated the sport. All right. You have Pete Carroll, no longer coaching in Seattle. And of course, the big bombshell was Nick Saban voluntarily chose to retire. Now, the difference between Nick Saban and Pete Carroll is that the difference between Nick Saban and Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick is it got said that Nick Saban voluntarily said, "I'm out. I'm moving on. I got other things I need to be doing." And then his age, I remember mentioning this on the interview he did with Reese Davis, is like his age started to affect the way he could recruit. He was recognizing that some of the players were, hoping they'd be there 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line. And he said, "Look, if I can't make a long-term commitment to this thing, I got to move on and do something else because I'd be cheating the program. I'd be cheating my kids. I'd be cheating the players. I'd be cheating the men and the women that work for me, and that is what having morals and character and principles is all about, is when you're in a situation where you're like, look, I know I'd love to be here, but I got to think about what's best for the team. And this is what I want to explain to you guys. The winners, the ones who are winning, the legendary coaches, the ones that I just mentioned, like the Bill Belichick, the Pete Carrolls, the Nick Sabans, they are not motivated by the actual wins. All right. They're motivated by the development of people. They're motivated by how much they can help people. They're motivated by family and making it so they are doing what they got to do to uplift their family. They put their family in the best situation. I remember years ago when I was getting into it, when I was just getting into coaching, and I would go to my barber, same barber I had from 2nd grade all the way to 26. And, there was situations where me and my father, we butted heads. Because this is not a profession for everybody. Everyone doesn't understand. And it was nothing intentional. It was nothing intentional where my father didn't believe in me or anything like that. But understand now, in this business, in football coaching business, you're not going to get paid a whole lot. You got to take certain jobs where you're volunteering, or you got to do things that you're just going to network, and you just won't get paid. There's not a whole lot of money in it, especially at the start of it. You got to really love it. And one of the things that my barber was mentioning, and this was when me and my father would be kind of butting heads about what I should be doing and all that kind of stuff. My barber made the point, and I still carry it with me to this day. He goes, he was talking to me while he was cutting my hair, and he goes, "Look, you getting into a business where the fathers look out for the sons, where the fathers actually put their sons in position. They're coaching right there underneath they're coaching right there underneath their dad, and they're helping them out." And again, in my opinion, the reason I veered a little bit from just being a football coach, and more now I consider myself now a life coach. I consider myself now more of a career coach, more of a thought leader, more of somebody that can coach coaches, that can teach a football coaching staff how to care for their players and things like that. The reason I was able to veer into that direction is because my barber made sure he pointed that out. He said, "Look, again, you're trying to go and coach. You're going and trying to coach against, or you're competing against other fathers or other kids or other candidates, we'll say it like that, some of your competitors and the other candidates, the people are looking for the same kind of coaching jobs that you're looking for, they have fathers that are already in the business. They have fathers that are already, laid it out. This is how you do it. This is what you need to be doing. I didn't have that. Not saying my father did a bad job. In fact, he did an incredible job. What you have is a perspective that them dudes don't have. So you got to figure out a way to get in the business a different kind of way. And again, my barber is Jamaican, my father's from Trinidad, so it was like I don't consider Bruce my father by any means, but he was definitely had that same kind of mentality where he was always looking out for a young cat like me, trying to do the right thing that's productive, not out there, being a black kid out there, doing stupid shit, drugs, guns, gang banging, all that kind of stuff. He just loved the fact that I had principles and was trying to do something productive with my life. So anytime I'd sit in this chair, man, I'd be getting all kinds of gems, right? And these are the things that I want to explain to you again. What we're seeing in the football coaching world is we're not seeing just football coaches. We're seeing men who understand the importance of molding men. And that's how we got to be thinking. That is the level. That is when you are going to be lasting in this business. I'll give you a couple examples because first of all, I got to thank anybody who is involved in any way, shape, form, or fashion in the Michigan football program. If you're listening to me, I have to thank you. Woo-hoo, I got to thank you. Oh, I got to thank you because, again, it's been since I was a kid, since I was a kid, I started playing football. Third grade, must have been 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old. The second uniform that I put on was the Michigan Wolverines. I used to play for a team named the Brick Cheney White Oak Warriors, and we had the same uniforms that the Michigan Wolverines have with the wing helmets, the navy blue, the navy and gold, or the maize and blue. Yeah, the same same uniform, the maize and blue. Ever since I was a kid, I've been a diehard Michigan football fan. Now my team, like the team that again I ride for, like if I had to pick one team of all the major sports, is obviously the Washington Redskins. Now they're known as the Washington Commanders. That's been my team. That's been the team that I would cry when they lose when I was a kid. But in terms of the team right after that, it's always been the maize and blue. It's always been the Michigan Wolverines. And then I definitely like to see Florida State do well and all that. But Michigan, even when I remember going to college, and Michigan lost to App State when I went to college, and man, my roommates they gave me shit about that when we lost to App State. And it was funny too because I had a teammate from Good Counsel that played on that App State team, and then he called me. He's like, "Yeah, we beat Michigan. We beat Michigan." I was like, fuck you. Happy for him, but I was like, fuck you, So I gotta thank. I say all that to say this. I gotta thank the Michigan Wolverines players, coaches, staff, everyone involved with the program. Thank you for making my 35th birthday the best birthday ever. All right. They won the national championship, the 2024 national championship. They won it on January 8th, 2024. And that is the day in which I turned 35. So thank you all. It was great to see. I loved every second. And not only that, I loved it seeing that, especially, Blake Corum, who I remember Blake Corum when I was a high school coach. I was working for FBU in Maryland. And this kid was just balling. I remember seeing him in 8th grade, and he transferred. The decision for him to go to Pilates, and then a couple of years later, he went to St. Francis, and I had moved to South Florida by then, and I watched him come out to South Florida and just get all up into Miami Central ass when he got all up into Miami Central Rocket ass from Maryland, all that. So, I mean, I've been watching him since he was a kid, and it just was, I loved it. I loved how we won. I was like, oh, yes, show them what's up. He put the DMV on the motherfucking map. Yes, go. Oh, man. So thank you for that. All right. And as I was going, I just happened to be on a cruise. I was on a cruise I usually take a cruise on my birthday, and I was watching the game. Found a spot to watch the game, watch the Maize and Blue do their thing, get that national championship, and man, it felt so good. It felt incredibly great. All right, and as the night was winding down, and by the way, that was my first drink. I ended my year of sobriety, so I had my first drink of champagne. We were popping bottles. We have a little big and some vodka and cranberry. It was just an all-out celebration because I'm on a boat and there's other Michigan fans, and it just we just turned up, baby. We was pumped. Total strangers, didn't know these people, probably wouldn't have I haven't spoken to them since, but we just loved it. It was like it's great to be a Michigan Wolverine. Woo! All right. Let me calm down because you taking me back to my blissful place. All right. So anyway, as the when you win a national championship and the dust kind of settles and you start reflecting on everything you accomplished. I watched a ton. I mean, I've been watching it hours upon hours of reaction, hours upon hours of, it's celebration, interviews, this, that. I mean, just so many things happening within the week because, again, you're the national champions. You earned it. You earned all of the respect, especially all the bullshit that they had to deal with this year with bullshit sign stealing and, the guy fucking Jim Harbaugh buys a kid a cheeseburger, some nonsense like that, and you suspend him for 3 games. All of that shit didn't matter. They came together. Like, regardless, listen, even if this wasn't the team I was a fan of, just watching that team come together every single week, seeing that their head coach wasn't on the sideline, seeing that they're being accused for this, accused for that. I mean, it was great to see young men come together and accomplish something so extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. I mean, not only as a Michigan fan, but as a football fan, a football aficionado, a football enthusiast. I was incredible. I was incredibly proud and just loved every second of it. And this could have been happening even if it was Ohio State. If it was Ohio State that was dealing with all of these allegations and still came together and won, I still would have just loved to have witnessed that because that was a beautiful, beautiful way of young men coming together and saying and pretty much telling everyone to go fuck themselves and I'm gonna go out and grind and I'm gonna go out and win. That's what that win was all about. All right. And I remember they asked, it was after the national championship game, they asked Harbaugh, they said, hey man, so what do you have to say for yourself now? I mean, it's been a while. There were times where, listen, again, and I'm speaking as a fan now. There's been times where this guy came in and Coach Harbaugh came in selling a whole lot of wolf tickets. All right, I was watching. I mean, there was one point with I think Ryan Day's first year when he took over for Urban Meyer with Ohio State, where I mean, Ohio State just beat the shit. I mean, just blasted us one year. He never beat Urban Meyer. There was this guy came in. And there was 1 year I feel like we got cheated that 1 year when we had Jabril Peppers and we beat Ohio State. But anyway, we won't get into that. That's going to take me into a different direction in itself. But I we'll say it like this: Coach Harbaugh had a rough time starting off, and there was talk about getting rid of him. They made the wrong decision, all that kind of stuff. And again, he proved everybody wrong. He got it done. He got the national championship done. And if he goes on, it hasn't come out yet, but if he goes on and coaches in the NFL, I feel like it's well deserved. I don't want him, obviously, to leave to go to the NFL, but if it happens, it happens, and he very much deserves to be coaching an NFL team. All right. But anyway, the Reese Davis again, I believe he asked him about what do you do now? I can't remember what the reporter was, but he said it multiple times throughout all of the interviewers and the reaction from the national championship and all that kind of stuff. He said, now he gets to sit at the big boy table. now he gets to sit he doesn't have to sit at the little kid table. He doesn't have to sit with, what he was referring to was his dad, Jack Harbaugh, won a national championship, I believe, at the FCS level. His brother, John, obviously beat him in the Super Bowl a couple years ago when it was the Ravens versus the Niners, and can very well get another one this year. And he finally has a national championship that he could sit with his brother and his father and say, look, we did this. All right. That's actually what's going on in his head. I mean, so yes, you love winning, but what actually was motivating him throughout was to be able to stay close to his family and put his family in a situation where they're just improving, where they're just getting better, where his sons that actually coach for him and, his grandkids and all that kind of stuff. Everything becomes such a tight-knit group, a tight-knit generation, and where you're providing an incredible experience for your family. Those are the things that have to be going on in your heart and in your mind if you're going to last in this business. That has to be the motivation. The motivation has to be, am I molding people and am I doing things that I'm going to honor my family? That has to be where it's at. All right. I can't tell you how important it is what he said. All right. I can't tell you how powerful it is what he said, even though he was saying it kind of in a joking way. There was such a level of honesty and such a level of importance that he would say, hey, I honor my dad, my brother, and all that stuff. Those are the things that make the same players that are struggling, players that are looking for that family-like atmosphere, players that they want to come to a program in which they know their coach gives a shit about them. Those are the things that makes it so he can bring in these guys, because that's more important than teaching a guy a slant route, or teaching a guy some X's and O's, and teaching a guy how to run a stunt and blitz and all that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, those things are important, but in order for you to do these things day in and day out, you got to know your leaders care. I mean, I've heard him say so many great things over the years. There was one line that I actually stole one time where I believe it was a press conference, and this is back when we were struggling. We weren't doing too good when he first got there, like I mentioned earlier. He was like, "Look, leaders eat last. Leaders eat last, right?" And I love that he said that. So one of the things, and I'm going to close you guys out soon with this, especially because, again, today we're talking about, I know I might have been rambling a little bit. This topic I can go for hours and hours and hours upon about. But here's what I want to, I'm going to close you guys out with this, understanding this concept. All right. When I was a trainer for Positive Coaching Alliance, I shouldn't say when I was a trainer, because technically I still am a trainer for Positive Coaching Alliance. If they needed me to go out and do some workshops for them, I wouldn't mind doing it. I've kind of perfected how to do the workshops, for whether it's the workshops for coaches, youth coaches, whether it's the workshop for high school coaches, whether it's a workshop for the actual players or the parents. I'm qualified and certified to do all those kinds of workshops. Nowadays, I actually do my own workshops, which you can check out on aswandc.com. If you want me to come do a workshop or consult with me in your business, I'm qualified to do it for businesses as well. But how I got started in the workshop business was through Positive Coaching Alliance. All right. And what we would do is we would go to, whether it's a youth program or a high school program, and we would go coach the coaches. We would go host a workshop for the coaches. All right. And the first thing that we would ask these coaches, the very first thing we would have them do was, it was a sheet. We had them write it down. We had them actually write this down. We would ask them, what would your current and former players say about you right now? If they had to say, well, how was Coach John? How was Coach Mike? Or how was Coach Alex? How was Coach whoever, right? What would they say about you? Whenever I would ask that question, the room would get real serious. All right, the room would get real serious, and all the joking would stop. Again, we as coaches, we as educators, teachers, whatever, we can always, joke around and have fun and, do what we do, whether we are just talking about kids or this, that, and the third. But when it came to the question of what would those students or what would those players say about you when you're not there, or what they're going to say about you when it comes to how you improve their life, and what lessons that they taught you, that this coach helped you with throughout your life, that's when the room gets really, really quiet, and really it gets real cold now, because now it gets real. It's like I said, I actually said this in my latest book called titled Transfer in D1. Part 1 is titled When Things Get Real, because it gets actually real. That question is so important, because that's what gives you the longevity in this business. All right. And here's what happened. Now, with all the hype that was going on, with all the excitement that went on with the Michigan Wolverines, and all the stuff, the talk when it comes to the NFL coaching legends that moved on, got fired, retired, whether it's Nick Saban, Coach Belichick, or Pete Carroll. One of the things that really that I paid attention to a great deal of, and I spoke about this, the video I did, I wrote an entire article about this. All right. It was the tenure of Coach Ron Rivera and the Washington Commanders, my hometown Washington Commanders, it was them officially letting him go. And there were some things that went on. While I was watching the game. This was the Sunday before the national championship. So that made it January 7th. And I was watching the Commanders get their ass beat by the Dallas Cowboys, which again, we'll talk about Michigan. We'll talk about the Michigan Wolverines on this. We all talk about this damn Commanders because they've caused a lot of stress over the years. We'll just say it like that. All right. But anyway, they officially fired Coach Ron Rivera. We can't as Redskin or as Commander fans now, we can't blame Dan Snyder is this, Dan Snyder is that. This is a brand new ownership group, so we're no longer able to blame Dan Snyder for the fuck ups and shit like that. I guess, I mean, if you want to blame him for Ron Rivera, go ahead. But at the end of the day, we got what we have been wanting for years, which is new ownership. So I'm optimistic about what the new ownership is going to do. We'll just put it like that. I'm going to just use the word optimistic. But ever since RG3, I've had some rough years with them. I mean, it was when we fucking took RG3 in which I couldn't take it. I couldn't fucking take it. All right. Which is not a healthy relationship between me and the burgundy and gold. From that RG3 situation, that shit just pissed me off. I mean, you draft RG3, you go get Kirk Cousins, and then look what Kirk Cousins is doing versus what RG3 is doing. Just stupid shit. Okay. Woo. I told you I'm a fan, a diehard fan of them, and it's been a struggle to be a fan of that team, that franchise, since I was a kid. It's been rough, right? It's been rough. But anyway, it was during the game where one of Ron Rivera's former players, his name is Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen, who played for the U. He was one of the main guys when Coach Ron Rivera was coaching for the Carolina Panthers. He was one of Cam Newton's main targets, all right? And the writing was pretty much on the wall. Everyone knew that this was it for Coach Ron Rivera, especially seeing how bad it looked. I mean, we got our ass stomped. We got our ass stomped by the Dallas Cowboys. And the Greg Olsen's colleague, Greg Olsen, who now is in the broadcast booth for Fox, he was actually happened to be commentating on the game, and his colleague, his name is escaping me right now, but whoever he did it with, teed him up. He basically asked him, hey, I know you know Coach Ron Rivera very well. I know you guys have had some great years. What exactly do you say about this man? Is he going to get a job? Is this, I know you get a chance to talk to him. So he gave him the mic. He said, go ahead, Greg. Also, the floor is yours, basically, right? And it brought me back to everything that I would do with these coaches in the workshops, because again, like I mentioned, I asked them to have them write down what their former players would say about him and all that kind of stuff. And Greg Olsen gave him an unbelievable testimonial. He said, look, I know this man. I know this man's heart. I know what he's all about. I know the play. I am a player that played for him. I also, continue and am great friends with a lot of the guys from those days in which we were in Carolina. We stay in contact. We're great friends. This man will be the first to tell you, look, you don't win enough games in this business. You're out of here. He was a big boy business, and he spoke so highly of him to the point where I knew I had to come on here and make sure I pointed that out, because I know what's going on in the mainstream media, and then the world is going to talk to you about all the coaching legends and the championships that Bill Belichick won, and championship in college and the pros that Pete Carroll won, and the 7 national championships that Nick Saban won. And again, I'm not taking anything away from those legends. They are legends. Listen, I have an entire article that is coming out about all 3 of those legends. I get it. I played while they were running the sport. But when you're able to recognize little things like this, like a Greg Olsen speaking very highly of a Ron Rivera, that is what this game is all about. Small things. I mean, he's in the middle of getting his ass kicked, probably one of the more very embarrassing parts of his professional career, right? He doesn't know this is happening because he's coaching. He just doesn't know it's happening. But there's somebody in the booth that's speaking so highly of him that it's no question about it. He's gonna find somewhere else to land. He's gonna land on his feet and get himself another job, probably within the week, right? And that's what it's all about. It's social relations. The reason that he's going to be one of the more hot coaching candidates, whether it's the coordinator at the coordinator level or at the position coach level, whatever it is, it's because of how he operates and what he is to his players. Not about the wins and losses, is what he is to his players when you hear a Greg Olson like that speak. In fact, I remember, and I know I said I'm gonna close you up, but I gotta give you one more. I'll give you one more quick story. It was when I went back to my alma mater, Good Counsel, and me and my linebacker coach became very close, Coach Steve Gann. In fact, I did an entire episode on Coach Gann. It's titled Ordinary Extraordinary Person. It was one of my earlier episodes of the show. And I remember when I went and spoke to him and I told him I was looking to get into coaching and all that. And he told me a story about how he was asked about how long he's expected to stay in this game, or how long does he want to do it or whatever. And he goes, look, I love this. I love when my guys come back. I love when the players like you are coming back and you see them develop as men and you see them doing great things and taking some of the lessons that you taught them and applying it into the world, whether they're applying it to their family lives, applying it to their businesses, applying it to whatever they need to be applying it to. I just love having a little piece and giving a child a little something that is going to help them in this very, very difficult world. And that's all it is. Teacher, educator, coach, no matter what it is, parent, no matter what it is, you older brother, older sibling, older cousin, uncle, aunt, doesn't matter what it is, or just a friend, one of the OGs or a barber, right? Like I was mentioning earlier, anybody. When you really boil it down, it really comes down to it, all of us in some way, shape, form, or fashion have the responsibility of teaching somebody else how to do something. And the ones, again, that are able to make a living off it, the ones that are able to do it at such a high level are doing it because they care. They care. Again, I'll close you out with this line. The ones who win, the coaches that win are not motivated by the winning. The ones who win are not motivated by the winning. You could look at the list of them. And again, if I get started, I could have tons of examples. In fact, depending on how long this episode actually lasted, I might do a part 2 of this episode. But I speak on this kind of stuff all the time. You just look me up. If you've been in my world for long enough, I speak on this stuff all the time, and you knew that there was an episode like this that was coming from the point in which Nick Saban retired. You knew that there was an episode just like this coming, and it's here for you. All right. So all that, if this is, like I said, if this is your first time actually listening to me or into my world, main website to check out to dive deeper into all of my work, makeyourmove.com. It's MakeYamove.com. If you have not yet, make sure you get yourself a copy of my latest book, which is titled Transferring D1, a practical guide on how to navigate the chaotic world of college athletics. And it's chaotic, and it was crazy because I wrote the book. Maybe it was like 2 weeks after the college football playoffs was announced, and I finished the book like a week after the national championship, like put the finishing touches on it and everything. And there was so much that was in the book that's coming out from coaches. In fact, there was one particular expert where I was talking about how to navigate and how to fix this name, image, and likeness thing. And then, Nick Saban goes on the Reese Davis show and is basically saying the same stuff I'm saying in the book. So again, I just go get a copy of it. It is going to be incredibly helpful when it comes to how we're going to be able to fix this transfer portal situation, fix this name, image, and likeness situation, and all that. All right. Give you the website again, makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. And book Transferring D1. Everyone out there, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.